Welcome to Close to Home with Nicole Sullivan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Close to Home with Nicole Sullivan. I'm Matt Skye. Nicole, a lifelong Mississippi Gulf Coast resident and experienced attorney, shares her legal insights on everything from real estate to estate planning, bringing clarity to a complex field. Nicole, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
So let's jump in. Let's get a sense of your background and your practice. Can you tell us about your journey to becoming an attorney?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I didn't really think I would start out in real estate or even becoming an attorney. I have a background or a family background in construction. So my family is in the construction business, and that's been a real passion of mine growing up has been real estate as it relates to the construction industry, new builds, whether it's commercial, residential, all of those things kind of led me to real estate and to law school. So I went to LSU, had an undergraduate in marketing and political communication. So really that meant running a political campaign, which is interesting with the upcoming election. When I was going through my undergrad degree at LSU, there was an election. I believe it was Mitt Romney and Obama. That was the election at the time. And it was very interesting to learn those things, but I didn't ultimately see myself doing those things on a professional level. So after that, I said, okay, what's next? My parents said, I think law school would be great for you. You can argue with a wall. So there I went, decided to go to law school. Wasn't really sure if I would ever practice day to day, but I went to law school, ended up really enjoying my time in law school, really enjoying property classes. I had a real desire to be in the real estate industry, but wasn't really sure I would get there. In law school, a lot of teachers and the professors would say, I'm not sure that you'll make it in real estate. Real estate is very niche. You have to have basically an apprenticeship to becoming a real estate attorney. And I thought, well, I can probably get there, but I'm not sure how. Let's see how that goes. So when I first started out, started practicing in litigation and really enjoyed that, but that wasn't my ultimate passion. And it's just been God's steps leading me to where I am today. And it's been a great journey. But really the real basis of my background has been my family, God putting me in the right place at the right time, and then also my desire to really help people with that large purchase with one of the largest purchases of their lives. So I've enjoyed getting to see that, especially on my Coast title side with doing real estate closings, but it's also been very interesting from the estate planning and the probate of estate side. I do both real estate and estate work, and every step of the way has just led me to this spot. I can't give, an exact moment, but it's all just been little tiny steps that have led me to exactly where I need to be. I've had this business about 3 years now, and it's been really a passion of mine. I love being in this business.
You said there wasn't one specific moment, but you do have this estate planning, real estate focus. Did you always kind of know you had that real estate person inside of you?
Yeah, I have an interesting personality. I'm very sales based. So I love that part of real estate. But also when I was going into law school, you have to write what's called a personal statement. And you state why you think you need to be in law school, why they need to admit you, why they are willing to give you this certain scholarship, whatever it may be. And part of that, I wrote about real estate and then really having that desire to be in the field. So it was interesting when I got out of law school that I did not start practicing in that area. And it took, 2 to 3 to 4 years to really get that niche started. I started out in municipal law and litigation, some of the estate planning, estate work, and real estate. And I had a mentor that retired after 50 years that I was able to take over the practice for him, his real estate practice. So again, it's just been those little steps that have led me right where I need to be, really.
Now, you're deeply rooted in the Mississippi Gulf Coast community. How has growing up there influenced your approach to law and practice?
I think the biggest influence just is loving the people around here. We have such a great community. I love the area that we live in. I love helping the people that I've grown up around. I think that's a great thing to have that. We have such a small community. It is growing significantly. We have people coming in from all over the country, whether it be for military, because we have an Air Force base here, whether it be for our school systems. We have great schools. We have a lot of people moving into the area, but I think what really drives me is just helping the people of our community, whether it be when their family members or friends have someone that passes away and being that friend to them at the time, while also being their attorney, or also when they're buying or selling homes. I think being a part of that community, I feel like I have that community within my business. I like to exude that. I like to exude the friendship rather than it being the typical stuffy attorney's office. That's just not me. I'm here to be your friend, welcome you in, give you hugs when you leave. It's a great thing about the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I really enjoy working and practicing here.
It's refreshing to have that more kind of human approach, I guess, to law. So as a former city attorney for Ocean Springs, how did that shape your experience and your decision to start your practice?
Being the city attorney of Ocean Springs at age 27 was scary. I'm just going to be honest. I started practicing law at age 24. I met my husband in law school. We got out of law school at the same time, started practicing, doing totally different things. But again, ultimately, I was led to handling municipal law for the city of Biloxi on a associate basis. I was helping out there. And then I moved firms and became the city attorney for the city of Ocean Springs. Traditionally, I would have thought of a city attorney as an older man position. And I'm sure that's what a lot of people think of when they think city attorney. And then here comes me, Nicole Sullivan, at 27, taking over the city job for Ocean Springs. And it was scary. But, the connections that I made doing that, the understanding of it's okay to say, I'll figure that out for you, even though I may not know the answer at that moment, and people understanding that that's realistic and that's okay to say. But all of those things together just gave me the confidence to start my own firm. I took small law practice in law school. I always had this entrepreneur's heart, really wanting to start my own business. So once I was the city attorney and helped all these people with so many different things, whether that was contracts for the mayor or the alderman or helping individual community members, all of those things just kind of led me to say, okay, Nicole, they respect you. You know what you're talking about. It's okay. Let's just jump off and open your own practice. And it really worked for me. I also had 2 small children at the time, and it made the most sense to go into practice on my own for my family, but also to be able to help other families protect their assets and their children. And I had that know-how and want to. So I felt like that was what led me to this through being the city attorney.
Well, big thing that, from my understanding, a focus of your practice is really making the law less daunting and serving others. Can you maybe share a little bit more about that mission and why it's important to you?
Right. So exactly like I was talking about a few moments ago with being a friend to people, that's where I'm at. I don't want law to seem like it's something that you have to go into an office with an attorney that has, a 3-piece suit on and they talk down at you or at you. I want to talk with you. I want to talk through the problems that you're facing, where I think it's going to lead you, how to best get you to your ultimate wishes, whether, again, that's through estate planning, whether that's through a closing, it could be anything. So to me, it's just talking through things as your friend and your attorney rather than just your attorney and just, a fee to check off at the end of the day. It's more about helping people really understand what I'm doing for them and how it's going to help them.
I think that kind of perfectly segues into my next question. So you're pretty involved in the community in Ocean Springs. How do you balance your professional commitments with your personal life, your community life? It's a lot to juggle.
Thankfully, I have the best help around, at least in my position. From my perspective, I have great people helping me on a day-to-day basis, whether that's my family at home. I have, both my in-laws and my parents that help me with my children. And then my husband is wonderful. He works for the family business that I thought I would work for one day, but he is actually helping with that business. And then here in my office, I have great staff. I have an associate that's so helpful. He's always helping me on the estate planning and estate execution side, probate of estates, all of those things. I have a great associate. His name's Nick. He's wonderful to work with. And then I also have 2 great paralegals that really balance my nerves on a day-to-day basis, help handle the problems, especially on the coast title side for the closing. So to me, the way I handle all that is having great people around me, great community, the cliche saying goes, it takes a village. It truly does. I have, friends that help. This is a funny thing, but happening even today. I have a family friend who we have 8 boys that are going to a camp, a local camp that's about 45 minutes away. And the grandparent has a Sprinter van bringing all the kids together to and from. So it's just a wonderful community to live in, work in, and have help from that community.
How do you assemble a team like that? Because it does sound like you've been able to put together the right group.
Assembling a team takes practice. And I think there are people that come into your life, whether that's, again, from a friends and family standpoint or in a work environment, that may or may not work for one reason or the other. In my practice, I've figured out that really talking to people like I would in a consult, explaining to them what they're going to experience, giving them an understanding of what's expected of them from day one, whether it's at that interview or the first day of work. Those things are important. And I have used personality tests in the past to see how do I best manage that person, or how do I best fit them working with certain clients. So I think it's been, even within 3 years of practicing in my own practice, owning my own business, it's been all of those things put together. Plus, my family has been in their own business for close to 30 years. So I've also got to see my family work through those problems and kind of relay those into my own practice. So it's been a conglomeration of efforts put in through many years, whether it's my years or my family's years, just to put those teams together.
Maybe we can touch on a point you made a little more. You talked about different personalities and matching to different clients. What's that process like? Because I assume you have a wide range of clients with very different needs, different goals, different aspirations.
Again, we live in such a close-knit community. So many times I know, especially from the Coast title side, when we're talking about real estate closings, I can kind of gauge the realtors or the clients' personalities and who I think they'll best work with in my office from a closer perspective. So I have 2 closers. As I mentioned, they're my paralegals. And I kind of base that based on how I see them interact with myself, how I see them interact with other people. And that's how I match them up. There's no science to it. I'm not saying I get it right every time, but I do try to match great personalities with like-minded, or even sometimes they're too like-minded. And I try to, make sure that they're not going to butt heads. It just kind of works in our practice to see trial by error and who's going to match with who.
There's a good show title, Trial by Error.
Maybe you can use that for someone that litigates. I, on the other hand, don't want to do that.
That's a good point. What are some of your practice's key priorities and goals in the coming years?
My goal is always growth, but growth to the extent that we can handle it. I still want to be a small firm that I can say that I've put my hands on most every file that exists in my office. So I really like a hands-on approach because I want to be your friend. Like I talked about, I want to be able to tell you what I think about that. So I want to grow the practice as much as possible, but only so much that I'm still involved. I think that's really important. I don't want to grow so much that my involvement kind of evaporates. I think it's important to stay involved from a business owner's perspective, but also as the attorney client perspective. And that's my ultimate goal is keeping up with communication. Communication is huge in our business. And I like to strive to be one of the ones in our business that we focus on communication. I'd like to get back to you. We live in an age of instant gratification, which is a good and a bad thing, especially from an attorney's perspective. Back in the day, you wouldn't hear from your attorney for 2 to 3 weeks after you've asked a question. Now clients expect to hear back from you within a few hours, if not within 24 hours. And that's hard, but I strive for myself and the people that work with me to answer quickly, answer as thoroughly as possible, or at least acknowledge people when they ask a question and say, we've received your email, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. That's important for me in my business. But I think that's the biggest thing is growth, stay close in communication with people, make sure everyone understands what we're doing and where we're at. And that's really the focus is growth and communication.
How do you stay up to date with today's communication speeds? Are you texting or on Instagram or phone calls? How do most people connect with you usually?
Most of the time, the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me and to get a quick answer is through email. The reason for that is I always have my phone on my side, whether I'm on vacation, whether I'm at home with my children sick, whatever it may be, I always have my phone next to me. So I'm going to email you back basically like a text. That's my best way of handling that, and as quickly as I can. When people call me, and I think it's kind of a millennial thing, but it's harder to get back to people with calling to me. Sometimes I forget. I receive a call and I see that I'm like, oh yeah, I got to call this person back. And then it's not a notification on my phone anymore. So I forget that. In an email, I almost use it as my to-do list. So I'll leave something unread until I'm able to get to that. Or say I answer and say, hey, I've received your email. Well, I go back and say that it's unread so that I know it's my to-do list. That's how I keep up with it. I know that everyone has their own way of keeping up with things. But to me, the best strategy is that's my to-do list. I'm a list person. So that really helps me in keeping up with today's communication. I don't text for work. I probably should get some kind of texting capability, but as of right now, it's just through email is my best avenue. You can always call my office, but if you want something quick from me, probably best to send me an email.
So you're involved in organizations like the board of directors for the local YMCA, Jackson County's DYW program, and the Civil Service Commission for Ocean Springs. That's a lot. So how do these roles complement your legal work?
I meet so many great people in our community on a day-to-day basis, and this is one of the ways that I do that. So I love to be involved. I like to stay involved with the city of Ocean Springs. So having been their city attorney before, I love to stay involved. And with that, I act as one of their commissioners on the Civil Service Commission. I really enjoy doing that. I get to be closer to our firefighters and our police department, whether that's the officers, lieutenants, chiefs. I get to see those people not on a day-to-day basis. We meet occasionally, but I love meeting people in our community through that. DYW is a scholarship program for young high school girls, and I think that that's a great program. I've had a lot of girls come and work for me once they get into college and need internships and say they've decided they want to be an attorney when they get older. They get to come in, see how my practice is, and then I also get to meet their families in the process by doing that. So it's a great way to meet people that I wouldn't normally meet. And then also with the board of directors for the YMCA. The YMCA is a large program here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and it's a great program with people from all walks of life. Tried to help with my legal experience with easements or liability, or all these different things. Plus, again, meeting so many different people that are also directors to see their businesses, and they help me with mine. We can throw around ideas to say, here's what I'm facing in my business. So it's a great avenue in all different respects. I like to kind of spread myself out over a variety of things because I learn so much from that. And I also meet so many people from that. And I think it's a great marketing tool. I think it's a great advertising tool, but I also think it's just great from a personal perspective to be able to see and meet so many people.
And as we wrap up, what's your advice for aspiring attorneys, particularly those looking to build a community-focused practice like yours?
To me, it's all about just staying involved. I think that when you start law school, it's great to have an idea of what you really want to do, but also being able to bend and be flexible because you never know where, again, your practice is going to lead you, where God's going to lead you. It's just be flexible. I think that's the best advice that I could give someone. And that's something I'm coming up with totally off the top of my head because I've thought about many things as it relates to this podcast and what I'd like to talk about, but it's true. Being flexible is so important no matter the business that you're in, but especially as it relates to being an attorney. It's different than being a doctor. A lot of times people say, oh, what did you specialize in law school? That doesn't happen, at least not where I went to law school. I went to Mississippi College in Jackson, Mississippi, and there was no set route to go. You don't specialize. You just kind of take a broad range of classes, figure out what you enjoy, and you go from there. or you figure out where you get a job, maybe I should say. But from this perspective, I think being flexible is super important. And that would be what I would tell aspiring attorneys is you never know where you're going to go. Don't be dead set on one thing. Really let your practice and your prayers lead you.
It's a great note to wrap up on. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to Close to Home with Nicole Sullivan. For more information or to connect with Nicole, visit Sullivan Law Firm, PLLC.com. You can also find her on social media. Nicole, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.